The morning sun spilled across the old Texas farmhouse as Ethan Carter leaned against the weathered fence, enjoying the quiet life he had built over 20 years. Every fence post, every acre, and every brick carried memories of his late father. Nothing about that peaceful morning hinted that his entire property was about to become the center of an HOA nightmare. A convoy of black SUVs rolled slowly toward the front gate, disturbing the peaceful silence. Ethan narrowed his eyes as strangers stepped out carrying clipboards and legal folders. Something felt very wrong. Leading the group was HOA President Victoria Hayes. Wearing a sharp red business suit, she marched toward the gate with complete confidence. Without introducing herself, she pointed directly at Ethan's home. "We're here to seize this property," Victoria announced. Ethan almost laughed, believing it had to be some kind of mistake. But the workers behind her were already unloading equipment. Victoria claimed Ethan owed years of unpaid HOA assessments. Ethan frowned. His farmhouse had existed decades before the gated community was even built. Something about her paperwork didn't make sense. Ignoring Ethan's objections, workers chained a bright red warning sign to the front gate. The bold white letters stunned every neighbor watching from across the road. Phones appeared almost instantly. Neighbors recorded every second, expecting Ethan to explode in anger. Instead, he quietly smiled, a reaction that completely confused Victoria. Ethan calmly walked back inside the farmhouse without another word. Victoria mistook his silence for surrender. In reality, he was retrieving something she never expected to see. A dusty metal lockbox rested inside Ethan's office. Carefully, he unlocked it and removed a thick stack of original property deeds, loan agreements, and banking records dating back decades. As Ethan flipped through the final document, a quiet smile spread across his face. Victoria believed she controlled his land. She had no idea the entire gated community existed because of financing his family had arranged years earlier. Ethan returned to the front gate, carrying a thick leather binder, instead of arguing. Victoria folded her arms with a smug smile, convinced the documents wouldn't change anything. The neighbors fell silent, sensing the confrontation was about to take a dramatic turn. Without raising his voice, Ethan placed the oldest deed on the hood of a black SUV. The faded document was dated more than 30 years before the gated community even existed. Victoria's confident smile began to fade. Victoria quickly handed the papers to HOA attorney Mark Benson. He adjusted his glasses and carefully examined every page. Within seconds, his confident posture changed into visible concern. Mark quietly whispered something into Victoria's ear. Her expression froze instantly. For the first time that morning, she looked genuinely nervous. Victoria quickly recovered and insisted the HOA's legal authority still applied. Ethan simply reached into the binder again and pulled out another document with the county's original recording stamp. The county survey clearly showed that Ethan's farmhouse had never been legally incorporated into the HOA boundaries. Several neighbors exchanged confused looks as the truth slowly began to surface. Victoria demanded that the workers continue the seizure anyway. The moving crew hesitated, unsure whether to follow her orders or wait for legal clarification. At that exact moment, a county sheriff patrol truck turned onto the dirt road. Dust filled the air as Deputy Daniel Ross stepped out, responding to reports of a property dispute. Deputy Ross politely requested documentation from both sides before allowing anyone to remove property. Ethan handed over his organized binder without hesitation. Victoria suddenly looked far less confident. As the deputy compared the paperwork, Mark Benson quietly stepped away to make an urgent phone call. Ethan recognized the number immediately. It belonged to one of the largest regional banks. He smiled, realizing the real battle was only beginning. Mark Benson ended the phone call with a noticeably different expression. His confident legal strategy had been replaced by uncertainty. Ethan quietly recognized the look. Someone important had just confirmed what the documents already proved. Moments later, a black luxury sedan turned onto the gravel driveway. Everyone watched as a distinguished older gentleman stepped out carrying an expensive leather briefcase. Victoria's confidence instantly faded. Richard Coleman greeted Ethan with a firm handshake. The two men spoke like old colleagues who had known each other for years. Victoria suddenly realized the situation was far more complicated than she had imagined. Richard opened his briefcase and removed a thick collection of financial contracts. Each page carried official bank seals and signatures dating back nearly 15 years. Even Mark Benson looked surprised by the volume of documentation. Richard calmly explained that Ethan's family trust had financed the original infrastructure loans used to develop the gated community. Roads, utilities, and entrances had all been built through those agreements. The neighbors stared in disbelief. Victoria insisted those loans had already been transferred years earlier. Richard slowly shook his head. According to the signed contracts, Ethan's family still retained critical approval rights over several financing agreements. Deputy Ross carefully observed the conversation, but remained neutral. His responsibility was simply to ensure no unlawful property seizure took place. The balance of power was beginning to shift. Ethan finally spoke after remaining calm for most of the afternoon. He reminded everyone that respect for property rights mattered just as much as financial agreements. The silence that followed was impossible to ignore. Richard revealed one final clause buried deep within the original contracts. If the lending relationship was materially disrupted through improper legal action, the bank had the right to suspend future financing until the dispute was resolved. Victoria slowly realized the consequences. By attempting to seize Ethan's farmhouse without proper legal authority, the HOA had placed the financing of its own community under immediate review. For the first time, she had no response. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another HOA story. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? We'd love to hear from you.